White judge finds black woman unaware she's a federal prosecutor. What would you do if someone judged you based on your skin color before they even knew your name? What if the person in power, the one holding your fate in their hands, decided your worth without a second thought? Now imagine this. A black woman steps into a courtroom, her heart pounding, not because she's guilty, but because she knows what's coming. How do you stand tall when you know the system is rigged against you? The courtroom was cold and sterile. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead, casting a harsh glare on the polished wood of the judge's bench. In the defendant's chair sat Melanie Carter, a black woman in her mid-30s. Her sharp suit fit her perfectly, exuding professionalism. But in this room, her clothes didn't matter. The moment Judge Clarence Wilkes laid eyes on her, his face hardened. His gray brows furrowed, and his lips curled ever so slightly into a smirk. He didn't know who Melanie was. All he saw was her dark skin and assumed the worst. "Another one," he muttered under his breath, though loud enough for the bailiff and court clerk to hear. They exchanged uneasy glances but said nothing. What assumptions do people make about you before you even speak? How often do you have to fight to prove you belong? Melanie was charged with a minor traffic violation, an unjust ticket issued by a police officer who had followed her car for miles before pulling her over. She'd rolled through a stop sign, he said. But did she? Or was she simply driving while black? As Melanie prepared her statement, Judge Wilkes cut her off with a raised hand. "No need for theatrics, ma'am," he said dismissively. "I've seen plenty like you come through here. Pay the fine, doll, $500, and let's not waste the court's time." Plenty like her? The words stung, but Melanie's face remained calm. What would you do in that moment? Would you stay silent, or would you speak up? Melanie took a deep breath, her voice steady but firm. "Your Honor, I'd like to present my case. I believe this ticket was issued unfairly, and I have evidence to prove it." Judge Wilkes leaned back in his chair, clearly uninterested. "Evidence? From you? Fine, let's hear it," he said, waving a hand dismissively. She stood, pulling out her phone to display a video she'd recorded during the traffic stop. The footage showed the officer's car tailing her for several blocks before he activated his lights. When he approached her window, his tone was hostile from the start. "You people think you can do whatever you want," the officer said in the recording. The courtroom fell silent. How far would someone go to maintain their bias, even when the truth is staring them in the face? Judge Wilkes frowned, clearly uncomfortable. "That's irrelevant. You still broke the law." Melanie's eyes narrowed slightly. "With all due respect, Your Honor, I didn't. And I find it troubling that you won't even consider the evidence before you." The judge's face turned red. "Watch your tone, young lady. This is my courtroom, and I won't be lectured by someone like you." Someone like you. The words hung in the air like a storm cloud. Now what would you do if you were Melanie? Would you back down or push forward? Melanie adjusted her blazer and spoke with calm authority. "Your Honor, let me introduce myself properly. My name is Melanie Carter, and I am a federal prosecutor with the Department of Justice." Gasps rippled through the courtroom. The bailiff's eyes widened and the court clerk dropped her pen. Judge Wilkes froze, his face a mask of shock. "You're? What?" "A federal prosecutor," Melanie repeated, her voice unwavering. "And I specialize in cases involving police misconduct." What happens when the tables turn? When the people in power are forced to confront their actions? Judge Wilkes stammered, struggling to regain his composure. "Well, I wasn't aware." "That much is clear," Melanie interrupted. "Because if you were, you might have shown more respect, not just to me, but to every person who steps into your courtroom." The tension in the room was palpable. The spectators leaned forward in their seats, hanging on every word. Melanie continued, "Your Honor, I have already reported the officer who issued this ticket to the DOJ's Civil Rights Division. I'll be filing a formal complaint about his conduct and the discriminatory practices that led to this citation. And as for this courtroom, I'll be requesting a review of your record to ensure impartiality moving forward." If you were in Melanie's shoes, would you let it go? Or would you fight for change? The next week, the story made headlines. Federal prosecutor confronts biased judge and racist police officer. The officer who issued the ticket was placed on administrative leave, pending an investigation. His record revealed a troubling pattern of targeting minority drivers, and he ultimately faced disciplinary action. As for Judge Wilkus, the state's Judicial Review Board launched a probe into his courtroom behavior. Several other cases came to light, exposing a history of biased rulings against black defendants. He was forced to step down. What would you do if you were Melanie? Would you have the courage to stand up, not just for yourself, but for everyone who's been wronged by a system designed to silence them? And what does this story teach us about accountability? About speaking truth to power, even when it feels impossible? Melanie's story is a reminder that change doesn't happen by staying silent. It takes courage, resilience, and a refusal to accept injustice. So what about you? If you saw injustice, would you call it out? Or would you let it slide, hoping someone else would take a stand? The choice is yours. But remember, every action or inaction has consequences. What kind of world do you want to live in?
If you've watched this far, comment which country you're watching from and leave a 100 in the comment section, because you are type of person that likes to finish what they started. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to get notified whenever we drop new videos.